The Beeman, written by Laurie Krebs and Valeria Sis. Bees. There wouldn't be sunflowers, wouldn't be peas, wouldn't be apples on apple trees, if it weren't for fuzzy old bees, dusting pollen from off their knees. Here is my grandpa, who's known in our town as the Bee-Man. Here is his jacket with a tight-fitting hood that covers his face just the way that it should when he visits his hives as the Bee-Man. Here are his gloves made of cotton and leather, protecting his hands in all kinds of weather when he tends to his hives as the Bee-Man. Here is the beehive where all the bees sleep, tucked into a box called a shallow or deep, and then placed on a stand by the Bee-Man. Here is the smoker that calms down the bees, and the hive tool that opens the beehive with ease, for a much closer look by the Bee-Man. Here is the queen bee, who does her job well, and lays tiny eggs in a six-sided cell. She's the heart of the hive, says the Bee-Man. Here are the drone bees with big bulging eyes and a large appetite supporting their size. They mate with the queen, adds the Bee-Man. Here are the workers, 10,000 or more, who gather the nectar to bring back and store in honeycomb cells for the Bee-Man. Here are the house bees with swift-moving wings that dry up the nectar a worker bee brings, making honey for me and the Bee-Man. Here's the extractor. It's clickety-clack, removing the honey from frames on its rack and filling up jars for the Bee-Man. Here's some of the honey. Returned to the hive. It's food for the bees to help them survive the long winter days near the Bee-Man. Here are the bees, protected from harm, inside the hive, huddled sheltered and warm. So they'll be here next year, says the Bee-Man. Here is the wagon filled up to the brim with bottles of honey collected by him and brought to the house by the Bee-Man. Here are the muffins, all warm and delicious, and dripping with honey on Grandma's best dishes. I'm glad that my grandpa's the Bee-Man. The end.